Good evening. My name is Bart Rocco. On behalf of my Grable colleague, Dr. Billy Rondinelli, we would like to welcome you to the second session in the Transform for Tomorrow series, What's Working in Schools Now? The program this evening is made possible by the support of the Grable Foundation, the Allegheny Intermediate Unit, Remake Learning, and our colleagues at Digital Promise. What we have learned over the last 8 months is that relationships matter. Building relationships was always important in effective school management and organization, but COVID-19 made us think differently about how we build relationships. In tonight's program, we will examine how two school leaders build relationships and communicate effectively with students, parents, and caregivers in this new learning environment. We know that the world of school has changed, but hopefully our presenters tonight will share with you some excellent examples of how they've enhanced their ability to build relationships in their school communities. It is my pleasure now to introduce my colleague and friend, Dr. Billy Rondinelli, to introduce our presenters this evening. Dr. Rondinelli.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Matt Miller, who is currently the superintendent of Lakota schools in Ohio. Matt has served 26 years in the Ohio region as superintendent, director of student services and instruction, principal, and teacher. Matt is actively involved in the prestigious and nationwide Digital Promise League of Innovative Schools and also serves as an elected member of their advisory committee. He was selected as one of 100 superintendents nationwide to attend and present at the Future Ready National Connected Ed Superintendent Summit at the White House and is the lead advisor for the Future Ready School District's Leaders Strand. He was named to the School Boards Association Top 20 to Watch in the Nation and conducted his first TEDx talk entitled Don't Buy the Book, Cultivate, Curate, and Go Open. Matt Miller is transforming Lakota through the use of open educational resources and balanced learning, along with emphasizing student and teacher voice through innovation. He completed his undergraduate coursework and master's degree at the University of Cincinnati and was selected for the Harvard Graduate School of Education's Leadership Institute for Superintendents. Matt is grateful for his supportive family. He has a son, Mason, who's an aerospace engineer in Florida, his daughter Jessica, who's finishing up her final year in the education program at the University of Cincinnati. It is also our great honor to introduce Dr. Thomas Ralston, who is the superintendent at the Avonworth School District. Tom became superintendent at Avonworth in 2012. Prior to that, he served as the middle school principal, also at Avonworth, for 7 years, from 2005 to 2012. Tom also served as a principal in the Southside Area Middle School in Hookstown, PA, and also in rural areas in Oak Glen Middle School in Chester, West Virginia, and as a teacher in Hancock County Schools in Chester, West Virginia. He achieved his doctorate of education at YSU, Youngstown State University, his superintendent's letter of eligibility at Westminster College, his Master's of Arts at West Virginia University, and his Bachelor of Arts at West Liberty State. Dr. Ralston is also part of the Future Ready Schools. His district is a member of the prestigious League of Innovative Schools, and he is married with 2 children, a son and a daughter. Tom, welcome.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's really my pleasure to be here with everyone. And first and foremost, I want to thank all of the educators out there who are working so hard right now to ensure that our students are receiving a quality education in these crazy, tumultuous times. It's certainly, I think we've all gotten really tired of the word unprecedented because it's been used over and over and over, but these certainly, have presented, I think, challenges, but also incredible opportunities that we can learn from. And, we'd be remiss if we think about these last 6 months and whatever lies ahead in the future months so that we can't learn from and, take to make education better in the future. So tonight we are going to speak, Matt and I, a good bit about some of the practices that and things that have emerged, the lessons we've learned, because just like all of you on the call, we've learned a tremendous amount, and it's almost, I think it's probably been the best professional development that we could have ever experienced. So, we're going to talk a bit about communication and engaging families, which I think has been a challenge in some ways, but we found some really creative ways to do it successfully. I'll just start off by saying that, initially in March, when the governor in Pennsylvania closed down schools, one of the first things that we became concerned about was really engaging our population. Avonworth is a school district that's located in the northern suburbs, about 10 miles outside of Pittsburgh. It is an affluent school district. We serve 1,900 students from kindergarten through 12th grade, but we still have our students that are at risk, and we certainly, first and foremost, we're thinking about that. And so I can tell you that one of the first things we did was we charged all of our case managers for our special education students, our students with 504s, especially other families where we knew we might have homeless children, and we engaged them to contact in person, through phone messages, those families, to engage them, to find out what they needed. We wanted to make sure, even before we had our system set up, that we could get food to them, we could get the materials they needed, the hotspots if they couldn't get on the internet or whatever it might be. We were really fortunate in some decisions that we made several years ago when the district went one-to-one, and we were able to put a device in all of our students' hands, kindergarten through 12th grade. Now, we obviously didn't do that, in thinking about a pandemic and how we'd keep learning going, but it certainly enabled us to flip learning pretty quickly. And even though I would have to say we were kind of learning as we went along in the first few weeks, I was happy that we were able to keep our students engaged. So that was, I would say, the initial outset of what we did to try to engage our families. Matt, do you want to follow up with anything that interesting you guys did in Lakota just in those first few weeks?
Yeah, before I do that, Tom, it's great to co-present with you, I guess. And Tom and I have known each other for several years in the league, and I really wanted to thank Billy and Bart for having me be a part of this too. And it's awesome that all of us have had like long days and things like that, but all of you were kind enough to jump on here and listen to us talk about this. I'm hoping for really good dialogue at the end, some Q&A, maybe some back and forth, but just really quick by way of background, my district, Lakota, is a northern suburb of Cincinnati, have about 17,000 students, 23 physical buildings, now one virtual building, I guess, as well due to the pandemic. There's obviously, we're all dealing with some negatives that are going on in our lives. I had a really good friend of mine who's a superintendent in the Columbus area. Just a little while ago, he said, "Have you ever been more tired in your life?" And I think, that hit, right? We are all in this together, as they say. And as Tom talked about, we keep saying the new pandemic, but we're past that, or the new normal. We're also past that now. I think our communities, including our staff and our parents and our kids, quite frankly, are relying on all of you, on all of us, to lead through this a little bit. It seems like more now than ever, things are getting pushed down to the superintendent level from the top, whether that be state government and obviously the feds as well. And so I think it's good for us to sort of get some of this out and talk about some of the things that we're dealing with and the way we've tried to handle things. I think, and Tom alluded to this a little bit ago, but I think part of it is when we're building these relationships and talking about how do we best communicate, the old adage is people don't really know you care until you show them. And so I think one of the things that we did here at Lakota, we tried to do first, and I'm sure many of you, or if not all of you, tried to do first as well, was take care of those basic needs. So like Pennsylvania, Ohio shut down pretty quick in March. March 13th, I think, was our first day out. And the first thing that we talked about doing was how are we going to feed our kids? And so even before we got into the educational aspect or the connectivity, we thought some of our kids go without food, and we talked about meals and things like that. So that was sort of first and foremost. And once we pushed that out, then we started taking care of things that we needed to get done. And the quote is, people don't really know you care until you show them. So we tried to do that as well. But I think tonight, Tom and I are just going to talk a little bit about ways that we've communicated. Just so you understand my perspective and where I'm coming from, Lakota has been all in for our students 5 days a week for 9 weeks. So we're in week 9. As I mentioned, we had 17,000 students. Of those 17,000, 13,000 are in person. 4,000 have shifted to our virtual learning option. So I'll talk a little bit about that and ways that we've communicated with all the stakeholder groups. Tom, you want me to keep going, or do you want me to throw it back to you?
Keep going, Matt. You
right.
set a
I'm
good
rolling.
tone here, so let's keep
All right,
keep talking.
I'll roll, and then when I need to take a break, I'll throw it back to you, and you can clean
Okay.
everything up. I think if we take a look at maybe the stakeholder groups, one of the ones that I think all of us have sort of engaged in new ways or different ways is probably our teachers and staff. And so we talk a lot about when we were coming back into the traditional format, how do you do that, and how are you going to do it safely? And so one of the best things that I think we did over this past summer is I had 12 Zoom sessions, different Zoom sessions with just teachers and staff. It wasn't for anybody else. And I really didn't have a set agenda in terms of things that we were going to talk about, but our goal had been from the get-go, we're going to bring people back in person, and let's figure out how to do that safely. So we met with infectious disease control people. We met with our Department of Health, with doctors. And so I would share that information with the teachers on those 12 Zoom calls and staff and say, look, we can come back, but these are the things that we're going to have to do. We're going to have to mask up. And that was before the governor made that ruling, and we're going to have to mask up K-12, everybody. So that was a moment. And then some teachers wanted to come back and they were prepared for that. Other teachers were scared, quite frankly, and maybe some still are just because of the unknown. But those are the teachers that we offloaded, so to speak, to our virtual learning option. And so that helped us out when we needed teachers for those 4,000 students. We had to ramp that up, and we built our own virtual learning option almost from scratch. So we needed those staff members anyway. I think too, and I don't know if for those of you on the Zoom that are back in person, one of the things that I think helped us is once we got back in and we figured out we could do it. I think that took a lot of the anxiety out of the teacher's perspective. Tom, you want to talk a little bit about the teachers and how that's been going on the communication trail for you?
Yeah, I think you were right on there, Matt. That was one of the things we did initially when the governor closed down schools in Pennsylvania. One of the first things I did was I called our teacher association president and said, come on over and, come over to my office. We sat down with several of our central office folks and our principals. And that was the first question was, all right, how do we keep learning going? We have the tools to do this. How can we do this and flip it quite honestly, as quick as we can? And that's one of the things I'm most proud about is that, it's been a tremendous partnership. Our teachers have done just a tremendous job, and they've been right with us all the way along this journey. It's really been interesting that I remember one conversation I had with a teacher who was very anxious, and we talked. It was prior to students actually coming back. We front loaded a lot of professional development and moved our calendar so we could really focus on building those skills and introducing different resources to our teachers. And so the one teacher said to me, she was like, I'm scared, and I said, once the students get here, it will really be fine. And we had spent a tremendous amount of time doing the things you're talking about, Matt, ensuring that folks understood what the safety procedures were, how we were going to keep them safe, how we're going to keep the students safe, how we're going to move students throughout the buildings, what we're going to do with masks and hand sanitizing, all those different things, the cleaning of their classrooms. And I saw her about 3 weeks in, the same teacher, and she said, you told me it was going to be okay, and it's okay. And, I just feel, I have so much trust now that we're going to make the right decisions. And that really meant a lot to me, that we took the time, I think, to engage our teachers and our staff, as well as our parents and our students. So I think that was a big piece of it.
Don't you think it helped that once they got in the building and they saw that it was going to be okay?
It really did.
They saw kids, that helped too.
Yeah, we did some really creative things with with our calendar at the end of the school year. We had 4 days of professional development that was led by our own teachers, and I think that was a really big point too, because within their own midst, I think it was important that they saw their own colleagues that had these amazing skills, and they co-presented. We actually modeled our professional development of how we want to be teaching online. And so I think that there was a great takeaway from our teachers. We were able to follow that up. We told them, we really want you to focus on things this week, these 4 days, but we also know that when this ends, you need to go away for the summertime and really take some mental health, take some time to, get yourself in a really good place. Then we came back in the fall, we front loaded that PD. I was also at the start of the year. We used Eric Scheninger for that, who's, for those of you that know the digital world out there, Eric has got a great reputation, and he's just one of the best in terms of helping folks get accustomed to teaching in the digital environment. And so, we were able to work with Eric for several days in the beginning as well, and that really benefited them too. But
go ahead. Sorry. No, go ahead. Sorry, keep going.
I was just going to say that, one of the things that I did just as, I was trying to also make this connection to families and just everyone in the school district. There was a point in the springtime where I was really tired. I mean, I'd said many times, like, man, I don't know how many more days I can do this. I can come to the office and not see any kids, not see any teachers, not see learning going on in the way I'm used to it, And so I went home that day and I told my wife, I said, grab your shoes, we're going back up to the school, we're going to make a video. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, I have an idea, we're going to make a video. And so in a couple hours, we put together just some clips that she took of me in the school building. And we made sort of a kind of a funny video, to make fun of the circumstances we're all in it. But also at the same time, I was hoping to let people know that, I miss them and, I really cared about them, and that video kind of went viral. We got a lot of likes on Facebook, and it made it out on YouTube and got a lot of views. But, there was just something I was trying to make that emotional connection with them. And I thought it was important, and I got a lot of good feedback from folks that it was something at the right time, that people were getting tired, their stamina was starting to wear out, and they thought, wow, okay, he gets it. And, we're all in this together, like you said earlier.
That's great. I mean, the power of the videos. I mean, I think we've all done maybe some of those, but I did for a while. I was doing 2 a week for staff, just really quick things about things that we were focused on, things that we had heard about, and I would do one for parents and community, and they were not professionally done. They were professional. They were not professionally done, but we would, do them really quick on my iPhone and send it out there just as a communication tool. And it's probably good practice just to keep doing that all the time. There were 2 other things that I think really helped us in terms of communication that I want to make sure that I mention. One of those is we really over-survey our staff, if that's such a thing, staff, parents, and students. So when we practice our remote learning exercise before we shut down, we surveyed people. What worked, what didn't, what do we need to get better at? And it's sort of the same theme. And then we after we shut down and we're in remote, a month into it, we asked the same questions, got feedback from students, from parents, from community members, and our kids too. And then at the end of the school year, we did that. We continue to do that about once a month. We have special surveys for our virtual learning students because their questions are different for their families and for those teachers. So we did that. Many of you or all of you have probably heard of a group called Thought Exchange. We also engage with Thought Exchange now for some of our conversations. It's essentially you come up with one question, people respond to it. People can give their own thoughts or ideas, or you can rank them as they come in, which really helps put the high burning questions to the top that I can address or somebody on my staff can address. So that's been very helpful in terms of getting things out. One of the things, other media tools that I used, and Tom just alluded to it, is Facebook. I do a Facebook Live. I was doing it a couple times a month. I do a Facebook Live coffee chat once a month. When we were rolling out our plan, whether we were going to come back or not, I had almost 600 people on my Facebook Live. And then I talked for maybe 20 minutes, hit some bullet points about things that we're going to do in the district. And then people would ask questions in the, well, not chat box, whatever they call the Facebook one. And I would go through each one and go line by line and try to answer them the best I could. I had team members that would, and even teachers that would jump on there and answer for me if they had something that was fuller, or if they got to a question before I got to it. So it was great that, you have this sort of people understand that you're doing the best that you can and you fill things in. Just a real quick side note, it was kind of funny. I was doing a Facebook Live. The questions were rolling in. It was pretty heavy. It was early on the onset of COVID. It was very serious. People were not being rude or anything, but you could tell there was tension in the room. And I just had this one dad who I didn't know at the time ask, "Hey Matt, all I want to know is, are you still going to have chicken nuggets on Tuesdays?" took the whole pressure off me. And I just like, you know, it was kind of nice that somebody threw something in like that. So, you know, it's good to, when we're going through all this, have somewhat of a sense of humor as well. And then another key component for us that's coming up that I just want to like put out there and put on your radar. I'm not sure how it is in Pennsylvania. I'm guessing it's the same or very similar, but in Ohio, our schools are used as polling places. So on November 3rd, that's usually a PD day for our staff. And so we're actually moving it and the PD day and going to use that day in a different way. So we're going to put that PD day on Monday so that no one's in our buildings. Election day is on Tuesday, obviously, but I'm going to use Tuesday night and Wednesday to do a deep clean of the whole district because we've been in 9 weeks. And one of the reasons we've been able to sustain this long, I believe, is that we've been keeping people out. Well, now I've got tens of thousands of people coming in, so I want to make sure we do a deep clean after that. The other thing, and I'll be honest, in terms of just communicating, at least internally right now, we've not said this outward facing, is I'm quite honestly, I'm a little worried about the election day and what the result and what the aftermath of that's going to be either way. And I don't want to be in school on Wednesday. And so we're using that as a deep cleaning day. But part of me says it gives me another day to plan or do something different if we have to for the rest of that week or longer. So not to bring the whole Zoom down, but it's just worth noting that in addition to COVID, we're also dealing with national politics right now. So
yeah, that's so true, and also issues of race that are occurring, and you know we've got a lot of mileage and good feedback that we've learned from our surveys as well, using you know, Google Sheets and Google Forms. And you know, also one thing I want to just share that I thought was really important. I think all of us, you know, we're on a Zoom right now. We've all been, you know, sort of tired, I guess, of Zooms or Google Meets, but we had a really great diversity, equity, and inclusion meeting that we had launched, or we reformatted that committee and relaunched it this year. And we did it through Zoom, and we had breakout rooms. And that's been one of the most popular things with our students and our staff, or the use of breakout rooms. And something I really thought about that night of the diversity, equity, inclusion meeting was, in one of my breakout rooms, I had a young mom who had a 4-month-old with her. And I thought for myself, like, if we would have had this meeting face-to-face at the school, she probably is not coming because she may not have, you know, childcare. And, you know, so through Zoom, she was able to engage with us. I was able to meet her. And so that, I really think that, you know, we found a tool that we want to continue to use. And I think, you know, one of the great things I've talked to a lot of teachers about, and our principals as well, is like coming out of this. At some point, we're going to come out of this. But I really believe that for many of our families and many of our students, they're going to demand the flexibility that we're now utilizing in our schools. I had a conversation with a parent a few days ago, and she said, well, do you know that students are going to work during the day? And I said, okay, if that really works for them and they're getting their schoolwork done and they can either, you know, participate in an office hour with a teacher or a live session later, or maybe that live session was recorded and they can engage later on. But if it suits their need, students, I think, are going to demand that flexibility. It's going to really format our education for the future, where we start rethinking of, especially with our high school students, do they really need to be in school every day in a seat in a classroom? Can we deliver education in a different way? And I guess that's one of the things too that I thought about in the beginning. I think there was this with a lot of our teachers, that we were losing the creativity that we had worked so really hard to incorporate in our schools. You know, we're talking about facing all the desks in the same way. We didn't even have desks. We had gotten rid of all the desks and all we had were tables, because collaboration was such a big part of what we've done. And over time, it's really been interesting how teachers have now discovered new ways to incorporate collaboration and creative ways to engage their students. And I think that's just fantastic. I was in some classrooms today we've done the same thing you've done, Matt, where we're not using a third-party provider for our online program. It's all our teachers, our curriculum. We're doing everything. And I'm just amazed. I was in our elementary classrooms. I am blown away by the quality of the synchronous instruction that our teachers are delivering to our students and how engaged our students are. I saw a teacher, she was using, in order to increase engagement in her classroom, she gives a top 5 in every one of her sessions. And those top 5 are able to go on to a choice board then and select from the choice board some type of reward. So one of them might be introducing your pet to all of the students that are in the lesson that day. Another one might be, choosing some type of unique video from a menu of videos that you want to use. So there's some really great things that I think teachers are discovering that they're going to use for the future.
I could not agree more. The other thing that I would be remiss if I didn't say it is I don't think our teachers and our principals are getting enough credit for the things that they're doing now, as you said, Tom, and how they're having to repurpose and reinvent what they're doing. And it's easy right now with like Zoom calls and social media and keyboard warriors to put snide comments on stuff on social media about things that are going on in schools and decisions that schools have to make. But man, our teachers and our principals, I mean, it's not like the usual norm, obviously for any of us, but they are not getting enough credit from the public, from probably me, from us, with the work that they're doing to get everything out there. I do want to really not quick, but at least a question popped up about systemic inequities. That is an issue, continues to be an issue in my district in terms of connectivity, in terms of devices. We do have a pretty robust plan for, if you're talking about the inequities in terms of devices and Wi-Fi. We are a Chromebook district 6 through 12 now. K-5 we are not, but we make sure we take care of the older kids. The younger kids, especially those that are in a virtual learning option, are getting theirs through our parents and through other organizations, Girls and Boys Club, that are also helping as well. When we had remote learning going on in the spring, we were at, with our 17,000 students, we were down to single digits of kids who didn't have connectivity. So I can't take any credit for it. It was my tech team. I'm also blessed with building liaisons, community liaisons, one in each building. And so those ladies and gentlemen knocked it out in terms of finding solutions, whether it was through cable providers or phone providers, of making sure that most of our kids were connected.
Yeah, I'll add to that, Matt, and say that one of the most important positions that we added in the last year was that of a social worker. And what a dynamo she is. She's just done an amazing job. And even though Avonworth is an affluent school district, we still have inequities that are existing, and we have students that aren't connected. She's done such a tremendous job in making sure that students have the resources, that they're receiving the mental health supports, or the family. How is the family doing, right? We have many people that are living in really nice houses, but both mom and dad have lost their jobs, have been furloughed. So it's created a lot of stress out there for folks, and that social worker that we have has done a tremendous job. So I really have to give a lot of credit to her and all that she's done.
The other thing that we made sure of, because to your point, Tom, people losing jobs or being furloughed or laid off for a certain period of time, it's financial hardships. We decided not to charge any fees for any of our supplies and things like that this school year. We have money in the bank, and we're like, we don't want to make a really bad situation even worse for our family. So that was one of the things that we did, and I think sort of helps address that issue.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's that's been a big help too. We've tried to financially just really to all of our lunches are free. Admission to any of our events is free. We're not charging anything. And again, just trying our best to get supplies out to folks as well. I see Billy and Bart back on.
Back. We're back, but I'll tell you what, you guys are phenomenal. But I mean, some of the ideas that you presented, and I think we're using, I think we've never thought about, you're using technology to deal with the technology. I mean, right. That's an easy thing, right? It's an easy fix. We had a couple of questions, those guys, and I thought, Matt, I think, and both you and Tom, both, you're open to letting your teachers and give your teachers get teacher feedback. And one of the questions out there was, how can you let the teacher ask, how can you let their administrators know how they would like to be involved, and how could maybe they communicate that to their administrators? Any ideas, guys? How you like to tackle that one?
Drop their email in the chat window, and I'll give them a call or send them an email tomorrow. Man, that's a tough one. So I'm trying to read between the lines, and maybe things are being said that might not be getting done. I don't know if that's as bad as it is, but and really, I think too, it depends on the buildings, and that's where I like leverage social media in my district in terms of things that are happening that I think are positive in our school buildings, and then I either retweet it or like it or amplify it. So I'm hoping that maybe doing things like that spread positivity to other buildings. I think maybe that's not the answer, but that's one of the things that is an example of here's something really positive that a teacher is doing or wants to do, and maybe that spurs somebody else doing it, or different or better ideas in other buildings too.
It's building culture.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really about culture. Yeah.
I would say the same thing. You know, I can look back on these last 6 months and think about a lot of things that I didn't do well. You know, I learned a lot, and I think we all have. But you know, I think that you do gain a lot through a positive approach. And you know, to that teacher out there, you know, there are a lot of administrators in school districts, and maybe you feel that there is one in particular that you have a good connection with, or might be open, right? And so reaching out to them and saying, hey, I just want to share something that I'm doing in my classroom, and by the way, if there's an opportunity for me to help in any way, you know, I'm happy to pitch in and add a voice that might help, you know, across the district. And so I think you know, that might be a good approach too.
Here's a great idea too that popped into my head. You were talking about Scheninger was in your district, right?
Yep.
And he wrote a book called Digital Leadership. That was one of the probably top 10, top 5 books that really pushed me to do what I do in terms of technology and building that culture, like Bart just said. Buy that book for him or her, and give that to your administrator and say, hey, I heard a good plug for this book. I thought you might like it.
Yeah.
Great idea. Great idea.
Okay. We're at the end of our time, and we just want to say thank you to both of you, not only just for being on here this evening after very long days, but also for everything that you're doing every day to bolster your community and to take care of your children. You're extraordinary superintendents, and we're very glad to be your colleague and friend. Thank you so much.
It was great seeing all 3 of you, and I consider you all 3 friends, and miss seeing you guys and gal. And so thanks for the opportunity, and thanks for doing this. I wish we got to get Ohio going on something like this, but thanks for doing this.
Well, these are recorded, Matt, and we'll make sure you get the link to the recording so you can share out with your colleagues. Next week's session is on professional development and what some educators are going to be doing around that. So that starts at 7 o'clock next Thursday evening, and we hope you join us for that session. Dr. Rondinelli, anything else you want to say before we leave?
Have a good evening. Thank you to everyone who was on this evening.
Guys, appreciate your
Thanks,
help.
everybody. Thanks, Bart and Billy. Appreciate you facilitating this.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Bye-bye.